Welcome to episode number 6 of COVID Talk. This is definitely going to be one to tune in for. I've got the absolute legends, the main man. It's Kelvin Jones in the digital house.
Yo,
how you doing?
What's good? I'm very well. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm all right. Whereabouts in the world are you right now? Are you in your Berlin?
I'm in Berlin.
Studio?
I'm in Berlin. Not even in my studio because there's construction work going on. Just in my living room / bedroom / small home.
/ everything right now. How are you coping with the lockdown? You've been making tons of music, obviously, but how's it going in your sort of circles?
Mixed, because work-wise, it's everything I think is mixed because you got positives and negatives. So whilst I've had plenty of time to do production work on my production side, and and that whole aspect of things in the songwriting, that's really kind of blossomed in a way that it could have never have done without this sort of break. Like you, I missed out on a bunch of shows that would have been great to do. So it's that's been mixed. And then personally, I've had 1 or 2 run-ins with COVID that far from pleasant, having the fear of like, do I have it? And I just had a test like 2 days ago, and thankfully it was negative. But my mum had it at the start because she's a nurse, and she caught it at work. Thankfully, it wasn't anything serious. But so anyway, through the whole thing, I would say mixed. You know what I mean? There's been positives, things that I like would have never expected to happen, and also things that were just like, yeah, this sucks.
I think it's been a really amazing journey to watch that. Like, I've loved watching it because we've gone from we did our tour, didn't we? End of 2019, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like you've come over, you've jumped on my shows, I jumped on your shows, and like since then you've just exploded in Germany and seeing the collaborations drop in. I mean the Lost Frequencies track, and you're sitting there with like 4 million monthlies. It's just I'm buzzing for you, man. It's so exciting.
Thank you, man.
And it's good to catch up and do this as well.
And I have to, you have been very. Sometimes it's like the industry thing is like, I'm excited for you, but you've legitimately, genuinely, every step of the way been excited for me, and I've seen it, and you like comment, you're like, nice one. I'm like, oh, it's like, it feels, I don't know, it's like, it feels, it's maybe it's a little bit rare in this, although like we don't have to be, sometimes I think we are all competitive in music, even though there's no real reason to be. And when you see like people supporting each other, you feel like there's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a kinship with other musicians. For me, it warms my heart. So I appreciate it and I see it.
It's a good thing. Part of the reason why I started this and why I wanted to start talking to musicians is to bring that conversation around, because you hit the nail on the head. There's no space or no necessary benefit that comes out of competition, is there? Like when everyone's working together, it's like that rising tide lifts all ships vibe. And I think that now especially is a time where whether you're independent, whether you're working with labels, it's just like now's just such an exciting time for music. And I think to see you, I mean, like I'm interested in diving in a little bit in terms of your experience, and especially for musicians who are listening, and getting some advice and understanding what it's like working with major labels, understanding what your story was like developing as an independent. I mean, you are one of the hardest working people I know when it comes to understanding that the team that you put around you is only as strong as the effort and the love that you kind of put in. Because jumping ahead a little bit, take me way back to your childhood. When we were on tour, you always told these amazing stories of where the whole like Kelvin Jones psychology started. Like, where did it all kick off for you?
So hi, I'm Kelvin Jones, and I was born in Zimbabwe. At 0 years old, I was born in Zimbabwe. I was born in in a place called Harare, or Harare is how they pronounce it, more like. Which is the capital, but I lived sort of just off the capital of Zimbabwe, and I sort of had, I wouldn't say I had for Zimbabweans, an unremarkable childhood. You know what I mean? There wasn't anything particularly special in terms of like compared to other Zimbabweans or people around me, but compared to the people that I know now and the people that I grew up with in the UK, because I moved to UK when I was 10, it ended up, when I look back at it, I go, wow, I have a really kind of different story and a mixture of cultures, You can even hear it in my voice. You can hear it, the way that I speak. You can hear the accents that I've picked up from different places. And that sort of has helped, in a sense, to really appreciate all of this. when it's funny you mentioned like the whole like 4 million monthly listeners or whatever it is. That's all. You and I are both aware all of this stuff is temporary, man. All of that shit is temporary. It's especially like looking at monthly listeners. It's just like it's literally what's happening in that moment. And once the song starts to get listened to less, you drop down to I could have 3 million monthly listeners whilst one of the biggest artists in the world or whatever, somebody way bigger could have 1 million. It's like that's a good microcosm for what all of this kind of is a little bit, which is sort of temporary, So to kind of tie that back in, having grown up in Zimbabwe, being like, at least until I was 10, and having this kind of, my family, like 99% of my family in Zimbabwe, I sort of think that has helped me to have an overlook of like, at least to try to maintain the grand thing of what is really important, and that this is temporary, and I love this and it's fun, but it's not the be all and end all, as my dad says. It's not everything there is. So that's the thing that has offered me a little bit easier, I'd say, than somebody who perhaps only had one culture and one upbringing. I think it's a little bit easier when you've seen poverty and you've seen how kind of shitty life can get. It's a little easier to access that part of your brain that goes, appreciate this.
Well, you've always had that line, and you would tell this story every night on tour. And something that really resonated with me, it was that you always felt rich, and it didn't matter because you had your family, you had music, you had songs and dance, and that to you since day one has always made you feel.
Yeah, it's not the most. I realized when I was like just starting music that I'm not gonna be the Bjorn or like I don't know if that's even the right example, but like I realized very, very early on in my musical career that I'm not going to be the guy who's going to be going, oh, I used a sword in this song and I changed the genre and I did this. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily like the most craziest original thing, and that's what I pride myself on. And I say that because that isn't most necessarily the most original thought, but what I've always kind of prided myself on is I don't try to be different for the sake of being different, because I saw that a lot when I was growing up. There was a time when I was like 15 or 16 where the whole joke was, look at how random I am. That was the whole, I don't know if you ever went through that, but when I was about 15 or 16, it was like, oh, he's so random. And I didn't get it. And I was like, I don't understand what's funny about saying a random word. Just because it doesn't make any sense doesn't make it funny to me. And so that whole feeling of like, I didn't realize that maybe my upbringing was different to what is considered the norm, at least in the West, or that I wasn't necessarily the richest kid or whatever. I had the luxury to not realize it, because not everybody has that, like even speaking to my girlfriend, she was technically way wealthier than I was growing up, technically, but compared to everyone around her, she was much poorer. So do you understand? So she grew up actually feeling poorer than I did in Zimbabwe. So it sort of, again, that offered me the chance to see that there are other things besides money that sort of can make you feel rich or wealthy or normal or loved or whatever it is that we're all looking for,
I just think it's just testament to almost everything around your music and your songs always have this really, because I know you say that you don't want to be the most random or the most kind of off the wall, but there's such an authenticity there that I just connected with as soon as I came across your music. And obviously going on tour and seeing the stories, it's just like I just knew that. I mean, the trajectory that you're on now is exciting, but what you've got in the future is even more
thank you, man.
Exciting if you keep up this energy. And so you grow up in Zimbabwe, you kind of get injected into British life as a 10-year-old. You start playing music, and then you write a song called "Call Me Home." Right, this is one of the early songs that you wrote, and you were telling me the feeling, and bearing in mind that there's quite a lot of musicians that are going to be listening and interested in the story of how you kind of went on that trajectory at the start, because you write Call Me Home, you essentially upload it to SoundCloud, and that really is kind of where the Kelvin Jones story really begins musically, right?
I mean, literally. So do you know my full name? We must have spoken about it once or twice. I don't know if you remember that. My name is... Yeah. Oh, yeah. Damn. Oh, damn, son. You got me feeling pretty good here. I'm like, what are you doing after this?
Hey, look, I listen. Pay attention to our chats late at night.
No, that's exactly right.
Late at night in a travel lodge.
Yeah. So it's literally where the Kelvin Jones story starts, because My name is, as you so rightly said, is Tinashe, and Kelvin is my middle name. So growing up, I was always Tinashe. To my family, I'm Tinashe. To my friends with whom I grew up, I'm Tinashe. And when I was about 18 or 19 years old, I started playing in pubs in Portsmouth when I was at university. And I'd go on stage and I'd have my few songs and I'd play and I'd be like, all right, my name is Tinashe, thank you so much. And somebody would come up at the end, Tinshi, I thought you were so good. Or Tissue, your music really moves me. And I was just like, okay, this is a problem, you know? And it became very clear quickly. So I was like, okay, I gotta figure something out. And I went with, I thought, okay, well, Kelvin, my middle name, seems like, you know, it will be easier to pronounce, but my surname is Mupani, and I was like, that's gonna lead to the same issue. So weirdly enough, I was watching a movie called Horrible Bosses. Have you heard of this movie? Have you seen this movie? Dude, it's the stupidest movie in the world. But it's basically what, like a forgettable flick. I think it's fair to say it's enjoyable, but it's not like I don't think they got any Oscars for that one. But it was a really fun movie I was watching at the time, where I watched that week, and there's a character in it called Motherfucker Jones. and for some reason, this character's name sometimes you get something stuck in your mind for like a week, and it was just one of those things. I was just walking around in my head, I was like, Motherfucker Jones.
So you're thinking, right, so if Motherfucker Jones is taken, what next? And I combined, and I, you know, very cleverly, I was like, oh, what if it's Kelvin Jones? And that's where I got the surname. So literally at that time is when the whole Kelvin Jones thing. So I didn't actually upload the song to SoundCloud. I upload, or maybe I did first. I did it first. You're right, actually. You remember my story better than I do. Do you want to take over? You go for it, man. You go for it. So I just need a haircut real quick, and then I'll be back.
Exactly. So essentially, I wrote this song, and I uploaded it to SoundCloud and to YouTube, and it had like a few hundred, you know, it had a few hundred views on YouTube. And I remember being so excited when I got 100 downloads on SoundCloud. That was like the big moment for me. That was all right, big boys coming into town now. Yeah. Like that was
Start
like
counting the dollars, man.
Ding, 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 ding. You know, it was that moment. I remember, like, I called my mum up at like 11 or 12, or like midnight. I think it was even like midnight or something. I was that excited. I was like, Mum, you're not going to believe this. Like, I got 100 downloads of Call You Home on SoundCloud. I was like, this, and I tried to explain. I was like, 100 people decided that my song that I made from nothing is worth downloading. And that's something that we should really like always try to keep in mind. It gets tougher and tougher with as the numbers get crazier and weirder to try to, because you can imagine 100 people, but it's hard when it's like even 1,000 people. You go, okay, what does that look like exactly? But anyway, I was super excited, and then by chance, somebody who I went to school with, or with whom I went to school when I was like in secondary school, he saw the song on YouTube, and he uploaded it to Reddit, unbeknownst to me. And dude, I was like, literally, I was out at like I remember I was always like the nerd who never went out, because I was just always playing music, and I was always like working on my crappy productions. And one night my friends convinced me to go out. They were like, all right, we're going to go to, I think it was even a club. I think it was like, we're going to go to a bar and then go to a club. And I was like, oh gosh, like I don't want to do this, but hey, I got to be a normal human every once in a while. So we went out, and it was like early. It was maybe like, I don't know, 12 or something, and I don't know why we were in this kind of weird sort of in-between bar and club kind of situation. And my phone starts going like crazy. My phone is just like buzzing in my pocket, and I have no idea what's going on. And this was before Tinder, so I knew it wasn't Tinder. Because
that's usually what it's like.
That's usually what it is. I'm like, well, is that Tinder time again?
Yeah.
So then I check my phone. I'm going, what the hell is going on? And I'm just kind of ignoring it and like paying attention to whatever half conversation can only happen in a bar/club. And eventually it's just like, okay, this is ridiculous. And I look at my phone and I start scrolling, and it didn't end. It was just Twitter notifications, endless. Like, I didn't even get to the end of the notifications, honestly. And I see a message from my friend, another friend, not the guy who uploaded it. And he goes, dude, you're the number one thing on Reddit right now. And thankfully I knew what Reddit was, and I was just like, oh shit. It was one of those like, one of those moments, you know?
Yeah.
And I immediately, and I'm not exaggerating, I ran home. I ran like 20 minutes home. I immediately just like said, all right, I gotta go. And like I don't even know if I said goodbye to everybody. I was like, I gotta run, I gotta go. And I ran 20 minutes home. And this guy, he called me up and he was like, dude, you're number one, is a friend of mine, your number one thing on Reddit right now. You need to, and thank goodness for him. He was like, you need to get to a laptop right now. You need to convert as many people as you can from Reddit to your Facebook, to your social media, to somewhere where they can stay as quickly as you can. So I ran home, put the links up. Hey, this is me. I'm the guy who wrote this song. Got everybody, like, you know, the song went from like a, you know, 100 to a few hundred views that evening to I stayed up the whole night because, you know, America was ticking over through the whole night. And by the morning, by the time I eventually went to sleep at 10 in the morning or something, it was, I think it just hit like a million, which is insane. And especially 5 years ago, that's even more insane. Now a million is maybe less so, but especially 5 years ago, the numbers, that was just like, how did this even happen from some crappy recording? I mean, I have a much more expensive, better mic than I did back then, you know? And it was just like a testament to just like you create something, and if it has whatever that thing is at the core of it, there's nothing that can kind of ruin it. It's hard to ruin it, you know, because it was a crappy recording through a DI with a crappy camera, crappy microphone, not even to click, nothing, with like the worst sub bass it was really a disaster of a recording.
But it had character. But
it had character, and more importantly, the core of whatever that thing is in the song was there. And people connected to it without any advertising, any money put into it. People just connected to it. And that's, again, another thing, so many lessons that I have to remind myself of constantly, these things that you learn that are kind of, they just never change.
Yeah, and it must have been even more exciting knowing that was other people that had found so much value in that they were sharing it and perpetuating that. And I think that songs, you know, you're sitting there in a studio, you're creating these things, and then one goes out there and just captivates the imagination and the attention of 100,000 million people. It's just nuts, man.
It's, you know what one of the things, another story that I rarely tell this story, but I've had like run-ins with people in my life, like that are people that I met only like for a short moment in my life, but they changed my life so drastically, and they might never ever know it. I've already mentioned two in this story alone. These are people who I only spoke for a brief, maybe I knew, like the guy who uploaded the song on Reddit. He's so gracious. I said, hey, what can I do for you? How can I thank you? How can I? No, all good. And we spoke maybe a couple of times since then. Hey, if you ever want to come to a show, hey, you're set for life. I mean, you know, but people who were just like, yeah, all good, no worries. And the guy who was like, you got to get on Facebook, he just gave me some help. Cool, all good, no worries. And this is another one of those where a few weeks before this happened, I was playing in this pub that was like my pub. I was like, this is my pub. This is like, they had an open mic every Thursday night. And I was like, I'm there every Thursday. I'm going to make sure like they know like, hey, this is like almost like this is Kelvin's place. Like I go there and I kill it every single Thursday night. And after a few weeks, they were super lovely, and it was kind of feeling like that vibe. Like I wouldn't say it was Kelvin's pub, but it was just like I was expected to be there. You know, it was like, oh, where were you last week? You know, that was the place that I turned up every single Thursday. Anyway, it was a tiny place, really, really tiny, like smaller than, you know, like a tiny pub, a typical English pub. They stuck like an open mic thing, no real stage or anything, just in the corner. And it was the same group of like 3 or 4 people who'd play each week, and the same 3 or 4 drunk people who were there every single time. And some not so drunk people, but largely drunk people who were there. Anyway, one week, this kid, his name was Kieran, I believe, or Keir, sorry, not Kieran, it was Keir. And he came from Isle of Wight. I remember it very well. He had this dyed black hair. He came out of nowhere, dude. Like, and I was there every week just playing my acoustic, cute songs. Like, you know, I wrote this song, and I think, you know, I was essentially writing songs to play in pubs. And he came in with a fucking Marshall amp and some, like, Ibanez or some, like, fucking badass guitar, and he had like a drummer with him, and they tore the place up. Like, the pain of having your place taken from you, of like you used to rule this place, you were the guy. Dude,
we've all been there. Yeah,
I was the guy. And then he came in one week, and he's doing these, look, I shit you not, the stuff he was doing with the guitar, to this day, I I swear to you, he invented things on the guitar. Because I'm a huge guitar nerd, and I was always like super into electric guitar, and I couldn't play anything. I definitely couldn't play anything. But I knew all this stuff, that the general stuff. Oh, you can do that. You can bend. You can do this with a whammy bar. You can do. He did this thing, like this little trick with the whammy bar and bending. And I was like, where did you get that from? I was like, this is a prodigy. You know, it literally just like a prodigy. And everybody is going nuts in the place. It was like, there were maybe like 7 or 8 people in the pub, but it felt like O2. It felt huge. It was like everyone was like, the place was on fire, dude. And I'm sat there with my fucking acoustic guitar going, oh, good damn, screw this guy. And so I go up to him very with my puppy dog eyes, and I go, hey, man, you played really well. It's like crazy good. Do you think we can jam together next week? What I really meant was, I'm going to fuck you up next week. That's what I really meant. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, no problem, man. So he goes and has a lovely week, I'm sure. And I immediately, like that evening, like I swear to you, I didn't go to university. One day I was just practicing. Dude, I was practicing. I was getting my chops because these guys didn't know that I played electric guitar. They just knew me as the acoustic guy with a nice voice in the songs. I was like, no, next week I'm about to blow this place. Like it's going to be crazy because they have no idea what to expect. And he doesn't think that I can, because he has no idea. So it was an ambush, to be honest. It was an ambush attack. And so I'm every single night, I'm practicing my scales, I'm practicing everything. And come Thursday night, it was a Thursday open mic. Come Thursday night, I come in with my Marshall amp and my Squire Strat. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And they're like, oh, Kelvin's got interesting, okay. He's like, he looks back at me, almost like in a movie, man. He looks back at me almost in slow motion. And he's like, all right, so should we do it in E? We just do a 1-4-5? I'm like, cool, I'm with you, man. You do your thing. Off you go. He starts, he's on. I'm like, all right, cool. Let him vibe. And then, I'm in. Like, I land like a fucking jet. And the place goes nuts. It is crazy. And we're both like, he looks back at me like, oh, shit. Like, I thought this dude was just going to do like some chords behind me or whatever. And we just like lock in and we are like crushing it, dude. Like, it was as good as the week before was. This was just like, it was insane. It was insane for those 8 people in that pub. It was insane. It was like this was our night and nobody else's. Yeah. And after rocking it for like 45 minutes or whatever, or way too long, way too many solos, I grabbed my guitar, my Marshall amp, and I'm feeling proud of myself, and I'm feeling like a rock star. I was like, I showed them I can do this, And I'm walking out of the pub, and the bartender, this kid who couldn't have been older than 22, 23. He's literally, again, it's all so cliche, but he was really like just wiping like the glass, like in the cliche movie. As I'm about to walk out, he goes, "Hey, Kelvin, you didn't play the song from last week. I really love that song." And it was just like he could not have cared any less about all the notes and the bullshit I was doing on the guitar. It didn't matter to him. That was the first time anybody ever said to me, can you repeat that thing? That was the first time. Every time I was playing stuff, like, cool, yeah, come back next week. That was the first time somebody remembered something and wanted it again. And it was Call You Home. That was the song. It's like the one that was like the home song. You didn't play it again. And my heart sank in the best way. It was humbling. I was like, oh, okay, this is what connects with people. Not that playing guitar doesn't, but it has to do it in the right way and not just to show off. And so I literally put down the electric guitar. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on writing songs that make people go, can you play that again? That made people feel something that, whatever he felt. And that's when everything changed for me. It wasn't about showing off anymore. And it's a lesson, again, that I have to remind myself all the time and remember this story of like, you can play as many notes as you like, but when you have the right song, the right message, when you connect with people, that means way more than impressing them, That's going to go a long way. And that's what, when we played shows, that's what it was always about. It wasn't about, look at how well I can sing or how impressive this is. It was just like, this is my story. This is who I am. Let's connect. That's what every night the objective was. Can we connect? And that's what it was. So yeah, that's another story I rarely tell, but that was had a big impact on me,
I think a lot of people relate to that because you're kind of describing that battle between your own ego in a nutshell, isn't it? It's just like, definitely as musicians, I know what it's like. I mean, my first instrument was drums. Grew up listening to like Dave Grohl's was and still is my hero. But like you would learn everything that they could play, and then you would try and do better or try and do a solo or such, or just these technical kind of tiny little incremental increases in being able to be technically perfect, and then you wake up one morning and it's just like you could put 3 notes in a gang choral harmony that everyone wants to sing along to, and it just wipes the floor with it, and you have to battle that thing in your minds, because maybe as artists we are always conscious of how people think about us and whether we're talented or whether our songs are good or whether we can play piano well enough. And it's just like, that's such a great story, man. I love that you shared that. Thank you.
You know, I was talking to somebody else recently about I just had a song, this song "Love to Go" with Lost Frequencies, and I didn't write the song, and I've been very open about that I didn't write the song. It's the first time I've ever released a song that I didn't write on.
My heart breaks.
It took me.
My heart breaks. I thought that was yours. Oh,
it took
you know
me,
what? Just hang up.
I'll see you later. I'll see you later. Yeah, you're like, oh, sorry, we can't have you on this.
But you know what, man? You did kill that. Like, your voice on that sounds amazing.
Well, thank you. But here's the reason why I bring that up is because it took me 5 years to get to a place where I could release a song that I didn't write. Every time, you know, it was always a question. It was always brought up, hey, there's some songs. Hey, do you want to sing this? What do you think? It was always, you know, writers send you songs or whatever. And it never sat right with me, because I was like, well, I'm a songwriter. I have to tell my story. This is what I'm here for. That's what people kind of come to me for. That's what I bring. And it felt weird to take somebody else's song and all of that, and I could never sit right with it. But you know what? A large part of it was just that I felt I hadn't proven myself to other people and to myself. So it was the feeling of like, if I sing somebody else's song, am I then not capable of writing? Is that what that means? Like, am I really not good enough to write my own songs?
Like,
you know,
admitting defeat, that you don't have the quality to. Yeah.
Perfectly said. I couldn't have said it better. It felt like admitting defeat. It felt like, okay, I can't do it. Can I get help? That's how it felt. And it took me a long time. It took me 5 years and a few hits under my belt that I could look at myself in the mirror and go, I can do this. Is
it not like, I mean, throwing back though to Call You Home?
Yeah,
I would have thought that would have been such a definitive moment. And am I right that that had some accolades to it?
That was huge.
Did it go platinum in Germany?
No. Only went gold in Germany, but it was.
I love that. Only went gold.
Compared to platinum. Compared to platinum.
Yeah.
But it was played on Super Bowl adverts in the US. It's got like, I think on Spotify combined like 80 million streams. It did very well. It did enough to make me feel like I'm a writer.
But it's also interesting, isn't it, that even with an accolade like that at 19 years old, you still can run into troubles and doubt yourself down the line. And it's just
completely. And the fight's not over. And the fight's not over. I'm still, even now, like, I'm like, in the last few days, I felt really shitty about. I don't want to out people, but like, there are some situations that have been where I've. Again, that have made me question myself as a writer, because thankfully I'm sort of getting into bigger and better writing rooms. But that also comes with, am I worth being in these rooms? Am I doing my job? Am I keeping up with everybody? And even when you do, you still question yourself. You still go, you know, am I really at that level, or are they just kind of going, let's just let him in. He's like the artist, or he's blah blah, or whatever other reasons. You make up a million reasons why you're there, other than you deserve to be there. You know, at least I do, and. That with Love to Go, it was again such a lesson, because I heard this song from some friends of mine, some good friends of mine who wrote this song, and I heard it a year ago, maybe, or a year and a half ago, and I was, you know, we were just in a session, and it's one of those where somebody plays you go, what have you been working on lately, and they play you a song, and I go, oh crap, and it kind of ruined the session, because there's nothing I could do better than that song. I was like, everything I was like, yeah, I don't know, it's not that good, and I just kept on going back to this song. And I said, hey, what's going on with that song? What's the plan? And they're like, yeah, we're not sure. We just wrote it. We're not sure who's going to bring it out, to be honest. And I was like, well, if you don't find anybody, and I was just tentative. I was like, if you don't find anybody, maybe I give it a go. I wasn't even like, I was like, I'll just try it. I'll try it. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll think about, like, they were like, yeah, okay, if you're down for it. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And I was still a little bit unsure. And a year passed, and I found the song I was just cleaning out my laptop, and I was like, oh, what's this thing? And I hear the song "Living in the Fast Lane Time," and I go, "Oh, this song! I love this song." So I send him a message, and they go, "Oh, we're about to release it with this girl Zoe. We're not really sure. We're figuring out some production stuff." And I go, "Well, is it possible for me to just try it? can you check with Zoe if it's okay, just to try it? I'm open other way. They go, Kelvin, it's okay.
Tell her motherfucker Jones is
Nah. Well, here's the great part. Okay, all right. Here's the great part. Listen. So they go, yeah, we'll check with her, but I'm sure it's fine. Zoe's super gracious. Yeah, no problem. Give it a go. Whatever works. And I go in, went to Hamburg and sang the song and got the vocals. And at the time, it coincided with me having just met Lost Frequencies, or like a few months before that, I guess. And we were sort of talking about doing a song together. So I just sent him the vocal, and friends of his had been already working on the song with Zoe. And they brought the song together, and he was like, yeah, I think we can do this. And suddenly we had this thing blossom, and now the song went like into the Billboard. Like my first ever song to go on the Billboard charts. It's the reason that it went up to like 4.8 million monthly. Like it brought so much things, and all of it was big, or started because I learned the lesson at some point to be humble enough to go, I can write songs and I can sing songs. And because I know that I can do that, I have the confidence to sing this and go, this is great. And I can feel it when I sing it. I know the emotion and it doesn't feel fake to me, you know? So I got to reap the rewards of this because of the lesson that I learned. Because if I hadn't learned, and it's not for everybody. Not everyone, it's really not for, it's your own journey. But for me, I got to a place where I went, some things I can do myself. Like my last single, I've written and produced that on my own. So it's like, that is, I know that I'm capable of doing that. You know what I mean? Like I know that I have the ability to do that. So that allows me to kind of breathe and go, okay, let me try this. I think this is great. And the reason why that's funny, the whole thing, is because Zoe ended up having one of the biggest hits worldwide with this song, Lose Control.
I was going to ask if you were talking about Zoe Wees.
Yeah, exactly. Huge. So, it's just, again, a testament
exploding.
To her going, her trust in her own, in herself, her confidence, as she always says, like the confidence is the sexiest thing, of like, she was confident enough to go ahead, sing the song. I've got my own story to tell, and I'll
be slightly above in the billboards next time. And it's just like she's just
way above.
Oh, mate!
It's,
and congrats to her as well.
Oh my goodness, she's the sweetest as well.
Congrats to Zoe.
And she's the sweetest. I hate when people are super successful and they're so nice.
Yeah, it's irritating, isn't it? Yeah,
I hate it. It's just like have the decency to be a dick.
Yeah,
if you're gonna be, there's a guy called Alvaro Soler. Who I supported. He's like this most gorgeous Spanish man to ever exist. He's just like, he's barely real. He's barely real. Like my girlfriend in a heartbeat would leave me like that.
That's not true. That's
in
not
a
true.
heartbeat, dude. We've been on tour together, and I'll be in the middle of a conversation, and I'll be like, hello? And I'll be like, he's right behind me, isn't he? But anyway, the most gorgeous man, but as if that wasn't enough, he's the fucking kindest person in the world, and I hate him for it. I'm just like, have the decency to be awful. Exactly, Anyway, what can you do? But
these people, man, they make me sick. You know what? You as well. You make me sick as well. You and your talent.
Here's the thing. I'm a lovely chap, but I look like a foot. So that's where it comes together. It's just like, I've got. I'm going for that Ed Sheeran, Lewis Capaldi vibe, where I'm like, I look homely. I'm like, oh, he looks like he's got a nice voice. That's what I'm going for.
Oh, fucking brilliant.
Oh,
but
man.
How did it feel when it started to go, though? When you do have, whether you look back at Call You Home or you look at the Lost Frequencies thing recently, when you have something that just takes on that momentum and it really starts to fly, what's it like being Kelvin Jones in that moment? Are you getting the calls from the labels? Are you getting calls left, front, center? Are you coping with the stress okay? Is there like a psychological battle that goes on? How does it feel when you're in that moment?
That is a good question. So, okay, I can talk you through it. The first time I had that overwhelming influx of things going on was with Call You Home going viral. That evening, that night, when it was just like every second there was a notification. That felt really, and I hate to be so derivative, but unfortunately it's the most accurate way to describe it, but it felt like an out-of-body experience. It felt like I was watching it happen to somebody else. It felt like that thing of like, well, I don't win the lottery, somebody else wins the lottery. And now that person is me. But it didn't feel like I'm winning. It still didn't feel like I'm the one winning the lottery. It didn't feel like I was the lucky person. So it felt really odd in that sense. the elation is incredible. The elation in those moments when you have a number one song, or whatever it is, when you find out, when you get the phone call from your manager, hey, we just got this show, we just got this radio, something huge. The elation is just like it's unworldly. It's so not it's so rare.
It's a detachment from reality, isn't it? It's
it really is
detachment. Yeah, I know.
It really is, in the best and worst ways, because I'm trying to sort of list the positives before I get into the negatives, so I can feel like I'm not a screwed up human being. But the thing about it is, I'm so hyper aware of the fleeting nature of all of it, and maybe too much, but I'm glad I'm on this side of it than on the other side. I'm hyper aware when I have a number one song, the only way is down from here. I'm hyper aware that we have a few weeks, or we have a week or 3 days until you're not that. I'm hyper aware when the Call You Home is going viral, that, all right, now the messages are getting less. Oh, they're getting less. Okay, they eventually is going to go to nothing. And I'm hyper aware of the fact that my career might have already hit a peak. I don't know, might be heading towards a peak, but it doesn't last forever. And that actually, being that overall arc, being aware of that has helped me a bunch, actually. That's been good for me, good for my my well-being. Because I think a lot of musicians, unfortunately, don't grasp that until after it's gone. That it's gonna go. I don't expect to be played on the radio in 10 years' time. If I am, that'd be great.
But that's gonna come back to how you grew up, isn't it? It's like your mechanisms of how you orientate yourself have probably never really changed much. So like, I'm sure you've been knocked around a bit, and your kind of guiding has been a little bit left and right here and there. But you've always come across to me like someone who's just always orientated in the right way. You work hard, you crack on, and whatever comes is a bonus. It's not like you expect anything.
Well, that's a family thing. That's to do really that's all thanks to my family. That's my having which again, I learned these things. I learned when I was 22 years old that not everybody has a stable family. I just sort of, when you're blessed enough to have a mum and dad who love you more than anything, a brother who will do anything for you, and you're surrounded with all of this love, you don't question it, and you don't actually even consider that it could be different, even though it's there. It's I really understand when people kind of say, I wasn't aware of this other culture. I really get that, because when you're in a bubble, even though it seems obvious, like, yeah, obviously not everybody has a stable family, and obviously not everybody has that, but it wasn't to me until I was 22 years old, and I was like, wow. I started looking around and talking to people and asking. I was like, hey, do you get along with your brother or sister? And they're like, no, not really, or we do, but we're not like closest friends. I was like, mind blown, So I really have to, that sort of stability. I remember a really good friend of mine said, it was my old manager, and he said, the reason why we want to work with you is largely because of your family, because you have this stability, you have this foundation, as he put it. And so I know that, if things go if things get messed up, I know that I can go back to my family. I know that doesn't change. I know that they don't love me any more, any less, because in fact, my mum wants me to be a doctor. So I know she doesn't love me more because I'm a musician, So she's just super disappointed with all the success in the music. It's like, yeah. It's a disappointment. She's like, please put those plaques elsewhere. They're disgusting. Yeah. No, that was the most disgusting thing I ever said. That was just a joke. But anyway, to answer your question, or try to answer your question, I really also have to say, this is a lesson I'm really still learning, is the way that I've sort of managed to navigate myself here so far is by messing up a lot. I mess up a lot, and I'm not good at there's a lot of things that are my weaknesses. I think you can attest to it almost as much as anybody else, that organization is far from my strength. It's organization, and there are so many things that I've when you become a musician. So I'm trying to say 15 things at once. The planet Jupiter. Sorry. So when you become a musician, at first you're just kind of like you're a singer or whatever you are, and then suddenly, as you know better than I do, in fact, you're suddenly a boss. You're suddenly a leader of people. You suddenly have people who you work with them, but they need to follow your direction. You know, you're the one who goes.
You've got mouths to feed. You've got responsibilities.
Also true.
Above
also true.
Just supporting yourself, which is it's a pressure, isn't it?
Exactly. That's not something that's necessarily when you're playing guitar and writing songs in a pub. That's not necessarily anything you're thinking about. You're just thinking, I just want to sing my songs, and that I learned by fucking that up completely many times, many times, and I'm still learning how to do that. I micromanage, like I could list my flaws, like we could you know, that could be the rest of the podcast. I micromanage like crazy. I'm super picky. If you want to do, right now we're doing a music video, the notes that I send, dude, like I said afterwards, like my second book comes out next year, because that's the amount of notes that I send for a music video, where they're like, for goodness sake, like we just want to, why? I can understand. I'm absolutely frustrating to work with. I know that I'm fully aware of like the things that I need to work on, and the thing that I'm trying to learn right now is how to accept that I'm a work in progress. That's the tough thing. Is accepting.
But do you think that that's also kind of the beautiful thing? I mean, me and you have had plenty of conversations about this before, but like, you don't have a hope in hell unless you're prepared to fail forward. Like in music, if you expect to start being a musician and just succeed, like constantly, you're in the wrong game. It's never going to happen. You have to. Like fucking up is a complete natural part of
absolutely.
I think anything. It's not even just music. People listening to this are going to be like, it's just like my life. Everyone has, and you either deal with that failure and understand that it's a friend in disguise, and it's helpful because you can now, get that guidance mechanism a bit more accurate. Yeah,
man.
But it's interesting to hear that you still feel like that as you.
Oh, absolutely. Even more so than I did even last year. As things get crazier, I see so much more. I guess it's that thing of like I've forgotten what this curve is called, but there's there's a name for this curve, which is like when you don't know how to do something, you think you're the greatest at it. Then you learn. Oh no! Sorry. You think it's incredibly hard at first of all that you can't do it, and then you learn just a little bit, and then you go, "I'm the greatest thing that ever happened to music." And then you learn a little bit more, and you go, "Oh no, I'm the worst thing that's ever happened to this." And then it's an asymptote, and you're just trying to get back to a place where you have that confidence, but you don't. I don't think you ever get to this place. So for me, I've sort of gone over the place where I was, I don't know, 18 or 19 or whatever age I was, where I was at my most arrogant and thought that I was like the shit. I've definitely gotten over that, and I'm somewhere at the bottom of the curve where I'm trying to figure out, okay, my own thoughts, the way that I look, what I see in the mirror is probably harsher than the reality of who I am, because I bring myself down so much about, I didn't get back to this many messages, I haven't done this email, I haven't, this person's waiting on this, and I didn't do that, or I said this thing or whatever. There's so many things, or like, that I'm beating myself up about, and I'm sort of right now I'm just trying to get back to sort of accepting, not accepting and not learning and not changing. That's a different thing, but accepting that, okay, I'm not a perfect person, and I have my weaknesses and things that I need to learn things that I need to lean on other people for. That was a big area for me, being able to let go and being able to go, okay, I'm going to trust my manager to do this. I'm going to trust my brother to help me out with this. Whatever it is, to trust other people, to be like, I don't need to hold on so tightly to everything, So these are things that I'm learning right now and trying to figure out, to be honest. And there's that whole thing of like, you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. And I've got a bunch of failures, dude. I've got a bunch of big failures that I learned a ton from.
Well, I think while you also do take that moment, I mean, we had a phone call the other day, and I just said, look, it's so cool to see what's happening with you, because you have just had this massive rise at the moment. And the first thing you said to me was like, well, if that's what it looks like from the outside in, it doesn't feel like that. And I thought, well, I mean, that's great on the one hand, because you are so grounded and you're always looking at that like a fleeting thing, and you're always working towards the next thing, and you're producing your own records, and you releasing music at such a rate. But you must also take that moment where you do take some time to yourself, and you have a bit of a meditate on where you are.
I'd say that without boasting, and I don't think it is a boast, I think I'm one of the few people that I know who really takes the time to actually, that's I'm glad you mentioned that, because I sort of showed one side of it but not the other side. I really make a point to mark occasions. It's a really important thing to me, and I feel like it's sort of a disease that's around this industry, at least as far as I can see, but also people in general, that you don't celebrate your successes. Or celebrate just your successes. Like I've got a really good friend of mine, and it's like really genuinely warms my heart to a point where I'm almost close to tears, because he posted in his Instagram story, he just posted my latest single, and he was like, "Hey, congratulations on your first production. I know how much this means to you." Because he really knows how long I've been working on trying to be a better producer, because I was like not happy with the productions that I was doing, and I was like, I could never release this. And I finally got to a point where I produced and released something, and I said to my girlfriend, like, we gotta get some steak, we gotta celebrate. Not because the song is a success, not because
you've done
because
something
I've done
that
it, and
it's
out, man, and it's that is a tick. We did a whole day celebrating. I had a much smaller production that I did like a couple of years ago, a song called Magnetic, which is like is an acoustic production essentially. It wasn't anything like this giant task of this song that I've done. And we took a day and went to Hamburg and did we went to like a breakfast. The whole day was just about this song. It was one of the best days of my life. We went, my girlfriend planned it. We went, had like some brunch, some beautiful place and some gardens. We went like, I think on a boat. We did like a picnic. We went to a studio, listened to the song super loud. We marked the occasion, you know? And when I had a number one with a song called Only Thing We Know, we spoke so much. Me and Franz Alafarben and the You Know Us guys, we said, we're going to grab a kebab and we're going to grab a Wagyu, like this fancy beef kebab when this song goes, like if this song goes number one. And it was number one for 5 weeks and we never did it. And that still makes me sad. I go, people, we generally hold on to the defeats and we let go so quickly and don't even mark the occasion when something comes through that we've worked so hard on. And we really need to, because again, it's fleeting, and I don't want to look back and be like, I was always worried it's going to end, or I was always sad and I didn't actually take a moment to enjoy it. I make sure we take a day to enjoy, you know, people around me to enjoy and to understand, hey, this is big, what we've done here, this is great. It doesn't matter whether the outside world agrees or not. We've worked our asses off on it and we've done it and we're proud of it and we love it, and so let's celebrate, let's enjoy it, you know. That's important to me. I think it's so really true, important.
And it is just a big moment for you. And again, like, congrats to get to that point. Just like you say, regardless of anything, the fact that you set that target for yourself and you said, I want to get my skills up to the point that I feel comfortable that this release is quality enough to put out there to the world. And I see on your live streams and I see on the stuff you've been doing, it's hours, isn't it, in the production stuff? Like, people don't realize the hours and hours that go into producing music. It's like learning a language, learning all those plugins, understanding all the finer details of frequency control and like how to mix stuff in stereo and get the masters ready. It's just crazy. So congrats, man.
Thank you very much. And it's beyond the technical aspect. It's the mental thing of going constantly, because you hear your thing a million times and having to get over your mental thing, because when you've heard, nobody listens to a song that many times, and to still be in love with it, or like get out of your own way of like, oh, now it sucks because I've heard it and I'm bored of it or whatever, or changing things just because you're bored of it. There are so many aspects, so many things I learned during this, like during this production, that like it was a whole journey for me, man. It was a whole journey, and then it comes out and it's 2 minutes 30 seconds. You know, it's 2 minutes. It's barely anything, but it was a journey. I recorded the vocals 3 or 4 times in different places. I recorded the guitar 5 times. There's a point where this song took me 3 years from the first writing session to finishing it. It took 3 years in the making for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you know? So it's a whole journey in this. So if I don't celebrate, what the hell am I doing, you know? Like, it took so much to get there.
When you getting your steak in then for this one?
So we tried to already, unfortunately, but it didn't work yet, unfortunately. But within this coming week, I'm absolutely going to have an evening with just some steak and some wine and just chill at home and just kind of be like, hey, we did this, you know, we got to this place.
Good, man. And you know what, not pointing any fingers, but as you know, me and you, we had a bit of a struggle getting our setup working today, didn't we, for this podcast?
Oh no, here we go. I
don't know whose fault that was, but
I'm a big producer here, so it couldn't have been me, because I
But look, I've got to ask you, because we're going to do this again down the line, and I'm so glad that when we tried to do this podcast first, it didn't quite work out schedule wise, and now we've done it at such a great point because you've had this like rise, you had the billboards, you've had the album, you
keep saying that. I appreciate it.
I know, but like I'm so excited to see what's going to happen in the future and what is next for you. Like, what are you sitting there plotting for Kelvin Jones moving forward? Yeah, what's your world domination plans?
I don't know if I should tell you. Not should tell you. I'll tell you, but I don't know if I should say it publicly. All right. Well, I'll hint at it. Because it's a very, very new idea that I was literally very excited about and just spoke to my manager and about yesterday, and we were just or 2 days ago, and we're just figuring it out. But essentially, you know what? I don't want you to guess. Because, or at least not out loud, because you're going to guess it right, and then it's going to be ruined. We can discuss afterwards. I hate it when I'm listening to a podcast and they say we're going to discuss it afterwards. I'm like, you fucks, just say it now or don't say it at all.
Well, is it something that we can revisit down the line?
Absolutely.
Then, yeah, okay. So give us a hint.
So there'll be a resolution. There'll be a resolution to this
sweet.
story. It's just going to be, maybe this is like a little cliffhanger.
It's a cliffhanger for the podcast, yeah, that's it.
So right now where I'm at is, as you know, I mean, you're one of the cleverest people in music, and the way you approach what you do is not it's not an accident, you know. From what I've seen, like, you know, we work together not just in music but also in business, and I bow to your prowess, man. I'm sat here going, how the hell is he got a million things going on in his head, and this organization, all the things that I'm trying to get to, you know, these things
such
of like
an ego booster.
No, but for real, I mean it. I really mean it. And so perhaps you'll understand this approach. When I started working on this song that I just released, the issue that I was getting to a frustration where I felt like whenever I released a song with a DJ, it would be a wild success, and whenever I released one of my own songs, it was just like meh. And it was very, I have to be honest, it was calculated. I was like, I love the sound that like these DJs have. Why can't I just do it? That was my feeling. I was like, why do I have to have and we spoke and we had different DJ names attached to the song, and it was going to be, you know, a DJ collaboration. And I kept on saying, this is really obvious. You know, this is really what everyone expects. If you see my name with a DJ on it, I can see your wheels turning right now. But I was like, this is really obvious. I think
I've got it, but I'm not going to say anything. Yeah.
No. We can check afterwards. We can talk afterwards.
Sounds good. Super secret club.
So anyway, it was kind of a calculated move, and we're still to see. So far, it's had a really strong start, like the best start to any song I've ever had. But we're still to see whether it's going to pan out, because I just kind of said, what if I just do the thing that the DJ would do without the DJ? This is what my voice went real weird. This is what Kopf. I nearly made it through the podcast without sounding funny. Damn it. This is going to be the replay. You're going to use this as like the promo. It's like, and Kelvin Jones. So what I was saying is like, I essentially in a calculated way was like, what if I just produce it in this way and I don't have a DJ on? I just do it myself, because I love, this is what I was going to say, is this is what Coldplay have done for many years, which is move with the times. They're still Coldplay, but then they'll do a song with Chainsmokers, or they produce a song that sounds like this or whatever, but it's all current, and that's how they've lasted. And if you look at anyone who's lasted, they do their own thing, it's still their style, but they keep up with the times. You know, they keep up. If you look at Jay-Z, look at Kanye, look at these people who've been around for a while, they keep up with what's going on. And I was like, well, why don't I just do that? And so with that in mind, that's sort of enough hints. I looked at this and I'm measuring, so to speak, how this goes over with this song, and going, okay, then that sort of will determine where the project sort of leads to next. I'm always going to do acoustic sad songs. I'm always going to do that. That's never going to be that's never going to be in question. That's who I am. I can't stop shitting those songs out. So I'm always going to do that. But this was sort of like an experiment to see, how do people react? How do my fans react? How does radio, how does Spotify react if I just go and do a totally different, or not totally because it's connected with what I did before, but something that's different than what they expect, and I don't sort of make an excuse for it by going, well, no, it's with a DJ, or it's with a rapper, or it's with whatever it is, you know, and I just go, no, it's just me. Good luck. So that's the plan for the future.
I love it. Well, look, thank you so much for doing this, and we're going to catch up a little bit down the line. But
dude, this was lovely. This was
fun,
this was so lovely. I never knew that you were like this. I never knew that you had these deep questions. I spoke 99% of the time, but
that's
you
the
were
point.
But you were so engaged. That's what I felt like. I had the excuse. I was like, usually when we talk, I would speak 0.5% less to accommodate so that you can have some words in the conversation. But I felt like today I have the
I think for me there's two parts of this podcast for me. Like, one's selfish and one's like the value that it gives to people. Because like selfishly, there's a lot of people that I've come across in my life that have taught me like shitloads, and you're one of them. And the people in this podcast are like people who have taught me amazing stuff, like the stuff you've gone through today, the lessons, the history you've had, the way you think about life, the battles you've faced, and I like to think of this as just a little like knowledge bank that I'm just like making deposits into, man. Just as a thing. And the point is not for me to come on here and like chat shit for an hour every time. I want to hear about you, and I want to hear about guests. But it's been a lot of fun.
I really loved it. I did I recorded my dad when over Christmas, similar setup without the cameras, just some microphones, and asked him questions from his birth until I think we only got to 22 years old because there was so much going on. But that's something that I would encourage, and getting a knowledge bank, especially of people that you love and look up to or whatever it is. I don't mean me. I mean my dad. I wasn't saying. I was like people like me who you look up to, but I mean like that. It's such a worthwhile endeavor, and I appreciate you taking the time, because I'm going to listen back to this and lessons that I maybe, things that I reminded myself of, like, I should remember that. That should, that's an important lesson going through. So thank you. This has been a bunch of fun, dude.
Pleasure, man. All right. Well, look, I'm gonna have to dash now. Cool. Look, thank you so much for joining me on this one. And I'll catch you sometime soon, and we'll see how your journey goes.
All right. Cheers, man.
Legend. All right. Lots of love, dude.